investor, done thousands of deals, and watch the markets constantly to see what is happening. And one of the main questions I get from so many of you on a regular basis is, should I invest in real estate in my own backyard? So that's the topic on today's show. We're going to be deep diving that. Any questions you have, please feel free to put them in the comments, and we will get to all of those questions in just a few minutes, and I will love to answer all of those for you. So let's talk about real estate investing in 2021 and where I see the current market. Like I said, I get this question all the time from people that want to know, okay, I'm going to get started in real estate investing. I want to see what this looks like in my own backyard first, because maybe I'm a little nervous about venturing out from other areas, and I don't feel like necessarily, investing in a town that I'm not familiar with. So that's normally where that question comes from. It comes from a place of, I want to say fear, but that's primarily where it comes from. I want to be able to go see, touch, lick the property. I don't know, see what it looks like on a regular basis. That's fine. That's usually where that question comes from. Although most people also maybe are uneducated about the idea that you could actually invest in markets that are not in your backyard, that you could actually invest and buy properties that are in other states or other countries for that matter. So that's what I want to talk about today. And we just published a video recently here on the channel that talks about what I am not. And when you see that latest video, I think you'll get a better understanding of the type of owner of a company I am and a real estate investor. I am not swinging hammers. I am not constantly meeting with contractors. I am not meeting and sitting down with property management teams. I am not standing there on the foothills of my properties and looking at them and staring at them. That's why I have a great team that does all of that. And that's one of the things that you should consider. So let's talk about investing in your own backyard first, and then we'll get into what I look for in properties. I guarantee you, like if you live in a market, you're probably going to be presented with property opportunities in your neck of the woods, maybe from realtors. I don't care where you are in the country, there's going to be property opportunities that are going to pop up, right? People are going to send you deals. If you go to local real estate meetup groups in New Jersey, in Montana, it doesn't matter. People are going to present you with different ideas, different rental opportunities, and that's great. People ask me all the time, do you invest in this town or in this town and this town? And I say, no, I don't. We look at certain demographic and market data, and we invest in certain towns specifically based on that data. Is it a landlord-friendly state? Are jobs growing? Are businesses moving to that region? All of these things, which I'll get to in a second. So a lot goes into that decision, and that might be the case, like in your neck of the woods, that yes, that's happening in your neck of the woods, that all of these demographic data points are happening. And if so, wonderful. But have you spent months analyzing your market? So one of the first questions I would ask you is, do you know the type of market research that goes into defining a great neighborhood? So let's start there. Do you? So if you're thinking about investing in your own backyard, first of all, why? Like, I want you to ask your question, why? Like, why am I asking this question? Am I asking it out of fear? And be honest with yourself. Am I investing in my own backyard out of fear? And that's because I don't want to venture out to other states or other countries. Like, I think that I only need to buy a rental property in this community. And be honest with yourself. Or is it that you simply didn't know that you had the ability to buy rental properties in markets that are not ones you live in? Almost every real estate investor I know owns properties all over the country and in different markets. They don't ever go to those properties. They don't sit there and visit them every week. Maybe initially when they found the property and they're meeting with the team and they're going through that rigorous, decision-making process, great. But like Robert Kiyosaki owns properties in South Carolina and Hawaii and I own properties in North Carolina and Texas and Pennsylvania and all over the place. And I'm not constantly visiting them. Once I've made that decision and I feel confident of the demographic data and I've got a great team, I leave it up to the team. So then once I get over that initial hurdle of thinking that the best properties are in my backyard, I want to branch out because I want to start looking at data points that can help me along the way. And I guarantee you the best properties are not in your backyard. And we'll go through these data points now as to why I mean that. Like, you might think your neighborhood is great, and it probably is. But is it a great rental investment market? You know, are you able to get a good return on your investment? Maybe you live in a very expensive area. Like we used to live in a pretty pricey area of New Jersey in Morris County. I would not be buying single family homes in Morris County, New Jersey for rent because an average home price there is going to be in the $500,000 to $800,000 range to buy a home. Well, the return on that investment is going to be awful because if it rents for $2,500 a month, that's a negative number to me. Like that is an awful number. That is below a 1%. So I'm not going to get the types of returns on investment in certain areas. You might think your neighborhood is great and wonderful. I live in a neighborhood where I wouldn't probably invest right now. No way. Because the numbers don't make sense. You know, if the property taxes are out of whack, if the jobs just aren't there, maybe you live in a nice, very, rural area in the mountains. You love it. But is there demand for rental property in that area? You know, are you going to have if a tenant leaves, is that property going to sit vacant for 4 months? You know, what is the vacancy rate? So let's go through a couple of these data points on investing in your own backyard. If you are going to invest in your own backyard, there are some things you need to do and understand. You know, have you spent the time analyzing the market data? This is very important because like at our company at Morris Invest, like we're spending months, years with our team analyzing market data before we ever start building new construction properties in those areas. Just not something we're going to do. We're not going to just start throwing money if we haven't analyzed what is the job growth, what is the crime, what is the vacancy rate here, what types of Fortune 500 businesses are moving here, all of those things. So we've got to spend a lot of time before we start. And you should too if it's in your backyard. Like you might take for granted, you think you know that the new super Walmart is being built down the street, but is that it? What else do you know? Do you know the census data? Have you looked recently at the median home income in these areas? What about the school districts? What are the school districts that are in highest demand? Is there availability in those particular school districts to find properties that are going to meet that rental number where you can get a great internal rate of return or a great ROI? You see, you might have found a great property that's in a school district that's really good, and the jobs are there, and the median home income is there, but the house is going to cost you $500,000 for a single family house. Well, how is that return on investment going to, how much rent are you going to get back? And what are the property taxes? You know, these are things you need to consider. So let's go through again some of these data points. Number one, I want to look at crime. Right? So one of the things we're going to be analyzing is the crime data. You know, what are the statistics from the FBI and from the local and state police departments? And what does it look like? We want to have decreasing crime that's low in our markets. That's one piece. That's a very important piece. We don't want to see increasing crime. Second thing we want to make sure of is we want to make sure that the jobs are there and that this is in many ways can be recession resistant. Like, so where we are in West Texas, very recession resistant. You've got multiple Fortune 500 companies that are there and moving there. And you have a diversity of jobs. This is also very important. Are you in a market? Are the properties in your backyard only there and everyone works at the Amazon distribution center? You know, does everyone work at the one job that's available? That's a huge problem. So we want to make sure that we have a multiplicity of jobs. We want to make sure that we have a number of different ways for people to have employment. Are the schools, the universities, healthcare systems, and are they all interconnected? That's one thing that's very important to us. I specifically, I use West Texas as an example because that's where we build a lot of properties, right? And we have healthcare, you have the oil and gas industry, of course, you've got biotech, you've got the university system, and then you've got other multiple Fortune 500 companies moving there in different sectors, all totally separate. So if you have, a decline in oil prices and oil jobs, great. Well, you still have the university jobs, you still have healthcare jobs. All of these things are very important. So we have crime, we have jobs. Let's talk about vacancy rates. Do you even know in your backyard, what are the vacancy rates? Like if you today had to list your home for rent, what is the vacancy rate in your neck of the woods? Meaning, how long will your property typically sit on the market vacant? And, how quickly can it be filled? I got to tell you right now, in this market, you absolutely should have. We have such a demand for rentals in this country right now. We have an affordable housing crisis. If you're in an area that has a high vacancy rate, that's a concern. And so why is it high? Are the rents just too high? Are they out of whack with the jobs? The jobs aren't there. Something is driving the vacancy rate. So you want to be very aware of what that vacancy rate is. And we want to make sure, like in our properties, we know that we have a waiting list for tenants. So if there's a tenant that leaves, what's going to happen is we're going to be able to fill that property pretty quickly because there's a waiting list to get into that school district, to move into this new construction home in this appreciating area. Okay, another thing I want to look at is the appreciation rate. If I'm buying an investment, I want to know that this thing is a hedge against inflation. So am I in an appreciating area? Is it growing? And I like boring appreciation, but even boring appreciation is better than inflation at 2%, So if I've got a nice house that's appreciating at 4 and 5% every year, and inflation is at 1 to 2%, I'm beating the inflation, right? But if I'm just on par with what's going on with the federal government and that they're printing of money, that's maybe not something I want to be involved with, right? Let's look at school districts. Are you in school districts that are in demand? When you have that, then you have families that want to be living in those school districts. They want to be living in rental properties that are in those school districts. They're in demand. Very, very important. Certainly as we reopen and people are moving now and they want to be in areas where they've got great school systems. We tried the virtual learning. We know how that went. It's going to be more important than ever to be in great school districts. And as President Biden, under this infrastructure package, is looking to improve the overall infrastructure of schools and education across the country and about to spend trillions of dollars to improve our education system, we could expect, I hope, that teachers' salaries will go up and the overall influx of money into the education system is going to be very, very important. So again, even more important than ever before to be in great school districts that have expanding capabilities, teacher demand. Teachers want to move there because it's a great school district. It's well renowned. These things are very important. So that right now, we're only buying land in the best school district areas where we're building our properties. We're not even wasting time in mediocre school districts. It doesn't make sense. And then that way we always have the most in-demand properties. So again, do you know the best school districts in your neck of the woods if you're going to start investing? If realtors are just sending you ideas, great. Do you have an idea about it? Do you know where you can get money, where you can get the best return? Do you know what's in highest demand? Don't just rely on people telling you that. Don't just rely on realtors telling you that. It's very important to know. Someone's just going to tell you that. You need to go to the websites, right? You need to go and understand the education data. What are the school scores? What is the crime? What does the vacancy rate look like? And then next, I want to know what property management teams I have available in these areas. We have a property that we bought years ago. I bought it up in Pennsylvania in a little small town it's called Nesquehoning, Pennsylvania. And I ended up doing this. It was an interesting deal that I did a number of years ago where I got seller financing from the woman that needed to sell it. We did a deal. It was a whole back and forth. She came back. Great, seller financing is great. She ended up coming back to me and she needed money. And so I was able to say hey, look, I'll just pay off the rest of this, but I'll pay off and shave $10,000 off the price. I'll pay off the rest of the house right now if you give me this discount. She said sold because she needed money for some tax issues that she had. So that's a beauty of negotiating seller to seller like that, seller to buyer. So I did. Anyway, I own this little property, but there's one property management company in this town. Fortunately, I got very lucky. This was early days learning the system, learning how to do things, and I got very lucky. And they were the type that would literally send a paper check for our rent every month, a handwritten paper check. But guess what? That property has been rented and nonstop. It's been rented for 10 straight years. Or 12 straight years, whatever it's been. And actually, I just sold the property. I just made a boatload of money on it, actually. And doing a 1031 exchange, the whole thing. So anyway, my point is, I kind of blindly went into that property. And I didn't know then, I wish I would have. It turned out for the best, but there was one property management company in that whole region. So I want to have opportunities. I want to have a property management team that has great software, that I don't have to get paper checks sent in the mail, that they've been in business for longer than 5 years. How many doors do they handle? All of these things. Like, this is what goes into having a great team. And one thing I want you to do is, like, if you're not comfortable with the idea of investing your hard-earned dollars out of state in some other area, you're in Michigan, but you're like, wait, Clayton's saying, hey, maybe you could invest in Texas and get a great return on investment because it's the most landlord-friendly state in the country. But I'm in Wisconsin, or I'm in Michigan. I'm just not comfortable with that. Great. You know what you do? You go to the properties. You go visit the team. Like, we have a whole team that will, come to town, come visit us. We'll take you around. We'll show you the properties. We'll show you construction properties being built. We'll show you one that you're going to actually buy yourself. You can meet the property management team. You can meet everyone on the team. We have a whole team just to help people that come in from out of state or out of town or out of country, to help them and see the neighborhoods, show them the school districts, all of that. That should be very easy to do. And that's something we're really proud of. In fact, here is, we just had our team. We had a few clients who just came to town. In fact, a team member just sent me some footage from an interview that we just did with a pair of clients. They were visiting Lubbock, Texas. They were standing in the kitchen of a rental property a couple of weeks ago. And here's what they had to say about their experience, because they bought a property. They live, I believe one was from Canada, the other Dallas. They came from out of the region and came to meet the team, see everything, see it all in action. And here's what they had to say. Take a listen.
My name is Moyo. I'm originally from Canada, and I'm one of those guys that was sitting on the sideline for a while for real estate investment. But eventually, I decided that after a couple of years of research and all that stuff, that it's time at least to jump on board. And you guys can be very handy. Yeah, for sure. My name is Moyo. I'm originally from Canada, and I'm one of those guys that was sitting on the sideline for a while for real estate investment. But eventually, I decided that after a couple of years of research and all that stuff, that it's time at least to jump on board. And you guys can be very handy because of the full service that is being offered through Morris Invest. Because I really don't have much time to manage it. So the kind of service that you guys do makes it very easy. That way I can focus on building the portfolio than these other small things that I don't have time for. So it can be very handy, and the process has been quite smooth. Obviously there will be up and downs here and there, but other than that, I think so far we're very happy with the way things have turned out. So yeah, no, thank you so much, and we really appreciate the whole team. From the multimedia team that they've been teaching us all sorts of things, to the guys on the ground that they've been dealing with, us being physically there. So I think they've done pretty well. Yeah.
My name is David Darcourt, originally born in Toronto, Canada.
Sorry for the choppiness, folks. I don't know why it's doing the choppiness, but they anyway, you heard it. So I think it's because it was an iPhone video and it's in this weird compressed format, and it was anyway. We'll have the full. You can go to our website, by the way, and you can see a whole bunch of these different videos. If you go to morrisinvest.com, you can see. Just click on the reviews section of our website, and it's right at the top. You can go and check this out. And so go to morrisinvest.com, click on the reviews tab here, and you can see just a whole. But we try to upload them like once a week, twice a week, whenever we get new ones that come in. So Moyo and they just had visited the property in Lubbock, get to see the team, and that's what you should be able to do. You should be able to come to town. You should be able to meet the team, feel comfortable about it, and make it, make an investment, make a sound decision about it. Just putting your faith in a team, of course. Like if you're putting your faith in like a team like ours. We've spent years doing the demographic and market research before we expanded into Odessa and Midland and other areas that we're building, and buying additional land in Lubbock and expanding in these great school districts and all of that, and building 400, 500 homes in a year, which is our goal this year. We've actually expanded our targets because of our demand this year. So, we're not just doing that blindly. And plus, when we also build in financing, when we work with the banks that have already, with non-recourse financing, have already looked and signed off on that. In fact, Moyo, who you just met, just on the video, they did non-recourse financing. That meant that they had an extra set of eyeballs on a property because they were from out of state or out of country, and the bank actually financed the property itself, not them, through non-recourse financing, not even in their own name. So that's like an extra third set of eyeballs on the property, because they didn't care about Moyo and his credit score. What they cared about was the asset in the neighborhoods, and it's performing based on the property management team and the construction and the school districts and the demographics and all of those things. So again, the best properties are not in your own backyard, unless, and by the way, if you do happen to live in one of those areas and you do hit all of those demographic points, then wonderful. But it's still, at the end of the day, I wouldn't be managing properties myself. I would still make sure I have a great team, a great property manager, because even if you do have a great property in your backyard and you want to expand your portfolio, thinking about third, fourth, fifth, sixth properties, do you want to be the property manager? Like, you're creating a new job for yourself. So that, I think, that, I always ask the question, like, why do you care that a property is in your own backyard? Is it that you want to go see it and touch it? Well, I mean, I ask you about your 401k. How many stocks are you invested in? I always ask this question. Are you invested in Ford? Are you invested in Coca-Cola? Like, what's in your stock portfolio? Well, that's your retirement, right? Then by all means, you should probably be driving to Ford's headquarters and knocking on their door to see it on a regular basis. Like, hey, is anyone here? Are you guys making cars? You're in my 401k. So if you feel the need to be checking in on those things regularly, then, you need to make sure that all of those demographic details and points that I just pointed out line up to make a great rental market. If you live in Atlanta, if you live in Lubbock, if you live in West Texas, you live in certain parts of the Midwest that hit these exact key data points, great. Jump on it. Just have it managed by somebody else. But if you want a full service team that can help you, we can do that at Morris Invest, and come to town. We'll show you properties and meet the entire team. Walk them, learn the neighborhoods. We'll show you the best barbecue places in Texas to go to get lunch. One of my favorites, by the way, with this big, I love their big sodas with the crushed ice. Delicious brisket. Oh, so good. Anyway, that's my thoughts on investing in your own backyard. I'd love to hear from you guys. I want to open it up for some Q&A here. Put these chats here up on the screen. Let's see. All right. So any questions you have about Roger M? Emmanuel says, I talked to one of your agents yesterday, and he didn't explain the pros and cons of having a management team after I protested at the 6% fee. Well, I mean, one thing, Emmanuel, is we have a waiting. I think one thing about our process, Emmanuel, is we don't push people to invest with us. We have a waiting list right now for properties. If someone's on the phone with our team and they're protesting, paying 6% to a management team that's going to take care of a property and place tenants in that property and handle late night phone calls when a toilet breaks or something like that, and someone's upset about a 6% management fee, we're not going to twist anyone's arm. If you've got it in your head that 6% is too much to pay a property manager, which, by the way, is the most thankless job in the world, then perhaps it's not a good fit, I guess, is what I would say, right? I mean, tell me if I'm wrong. I would never, ever, ever want to convince anyone to buy a rental property. I'm telling you, we have a waiting list right now because new construction in the best school districts in the country, in the best state for investing in real estate in the country. I'm glad that our team member didn't try to push you into something, I don't understand. Managing a 6% management fee is fantastic. I've paid 12 before, by the way. for management. So having a property management team is the most essential piece of this. Like, I do not manage any of my own properties, Emmanuel. Like, no way. So check out some of the videos we have here on the channel about property management. Yeah, average, as Nicole points out, the average is a 10% for management fee. 6% is, I'm lucky to get 6% anywhere. Think about all the hard work that a management team does. They're screening the tenants, okay? They're taking care of your investment by placing a great tenant in the property. And they're doing criminal background checks. They're making sure they handle phone calls if there's a maintenance repair, if a faucet breaks in the middle of the night or a toilet issue, whatever. Do you want them calling you? I don't ever want a phone call for a stupid little thing that's going to take 20 minutes to fix and it's like going to be $30, Don't call me, fix it. I don't want, and that's what they do. It's thankless. They do a great job. It's very difficult. We're actually, I think, Nicole, are we going to do, we might be doing an episode here on the channel with a property management team. So we can walk you through that process. I mean, the amount of money they pay for software, they have to collect rent, screen the tenants, manage any issues that come up. Take my money. And by the way, Emmanuel, that rate is figured into your return on investment. Like, when you have your internal rate of return number, like, that management fee is included in that number, right? Like, that's not like piled on top. I hope that, like, that's not like, and additionally, you're going to pay 6% or 8% to a management. Like, when you get your internal rate of return or ROI on a property, like, we've already figured in that stuff. Like, that's all figured into the mix. Emmanuel says, thank you for addressing this. No problem. Yeah, we're going to be working on a property management interview video. So, Roger M. Why can I scroll here? Why am I having trouble scrolling here? I need to unlock chat. It is unlocked. What's happening here? I'm trying to put these up on the screen and it's giving me an issue here. Okay, did that work? It says you need to go live before I can click on these, but I am live because I'm talking to you. So I don't know what's happening. I was trying to put these up on the screen so that I can pull them out, but the software is acting buggy today. Mike Owen says, if I purchase a property out of state, should I start an LLC in the state where I purchase said property? Mike, I am not a financial advisor, so I can't tell you one way or the other to do it. I can tell you that it depends on the type of financing you're going to do. So I personally have LLCs set up in each state where I own rental properties, okay? However, if I'm buying a property with financing, like Mike, would you need to, like if you worked with us, would you need to get financing on a property? Or I would assume, right? We encourage our clients to save as much money as they can. Like, keep your own money in your pocket because we've got great lenders that we work with. There's no reason that you shouldn't be using this cheap bank money right now. Absolutely not. So I would suggest, Mike, I would suggest if you worked with us, like we would connect you with a lender that we work with and get you great financing. So you're able to buy as many properties as possible and have your down payment go further. And then you'd be buying it in your own name temporarily. And then what you can do is quit claim deed it over to an LLC after you close. And we work with Corporate Direct. We work with a couple of our lawyer teams that can help you. It's a few $100s. So you're buying the property with financing through the bank, and then you transfer the deed over to an LLC. It's very simple to do, right, Nicole? We have does our Corporate Direct team handle that? We do that all the time, though. Sandy Smith. Clayton, do you fiance? Do you... Sandy Smith, do you mean do we finance? Do we have... or did you mean fiance? But yes, Sandy, we work with over 60 different lenders for financing for our properties, if that's what you mean. Kenneth Early Jr. says, do you guys still recommend Fund and Grow with help with funding? Sure, and also to help with getting, fixing your credit. So yes, I still like them a lot. Are you still fond of Fund and Grow? Iris Williams says, if personal credit is not good. I am, because they're great at fixing your credit. Also, I would check out, we had them as a sponsor on our show. I want to recommend these guys. I think it's scoremaster.com/invest is our link. Let me pull this up here. So I want you to go to, if you check out Scoremaster, scoremaster.com/invest is the link. And maybe we can pop it up here in the chat. Scoremaster.com/invest. Basically, you can enroll in 1 minute, and in a short amount of time, the average user increases their credit score 61 points. They do a great job of helping you with this. Really, really great. So their average user is 61 points, but even more than that. 134 points, 57 points, 79 points. So scoremaster.com/invest if you have some credit issue. Okay, what other questions do we have? We saw some interesting things in the housing market today. Some news: lumber prices are coming back down significantly, which is great. Anna Torres, it is possible to use a veteran's loan to purchase a rental property. However, you need to live in the rental property. So you have to be living in the property. Now, so what does that mean? Well, that means, a single family home is not going to probably work for you. But you could consider buying like a duplex or a triplex or a quadplex that you're going to live in one of the units. And then you could get 0% basically financing with that, and then rent out the other 3 units. In fact, my mother-in-law's husband is a Vietnam veteran and was considering doing just that. They ended up just they actually bought a duplex through us separately. They didn't use their VA loan, but they were actually considering a move to Vegas at one point, and they were going to buy a duplex and use the VA loan and live in one side of it and rent out the other side. So you can do that, but you have to show intention of living in the property. So that means getting your utilities turned on in your name, living there. Now, hey, you could move there for a few weeks and move out, like if you had a life change. But that's the way that the VA loan works. It's like a primary residence. Sandy Smith, I would book a call with our team because we can work with our lenders on that. Anything really over a 620, we can work with you on that, Sandy, because we've got non-recourse financing. So if your credit score is not so good, that's where non-recourse financing comes in, because they don't care about you. They care about the asset, the property. So just book a call with us, Sandy. Just go to morrisinvest.com. Roger M., what do you think about Toledo, Ohio for long-distance investing? Is the state landlord friendly? Ohio... I've stopped doing business in Ohio. I used to do properties in Toledo, and I haven't been a fan of some of the things that the state has been doing. Yes, are there pockets? Yes, but you have job loss in that region. You have some manufacturing that's lost in that region. So based on some of those things, some of the demographic crime data as well, crime data, job loss. I'm not a fan of some things, and also state politics as it relates to landlord friendliness. I also am not a fan of. So that's my thoughts. But hey, I'm sure you can find, digs. If you want to dig there, if you have your heart set on Ohio, we don't do business there. Just based on the data, I'm not happy with it. Mike Owen, if you do non-recourse financing on your own, like if you try to find it on your own, it's going to be like 12% for non-recourse interest rates. But we have been working with certain banks for a number of years and have very close relationships with them. So our non-recourse financing is pretty close to the traditional financing rate. Still higher, but not by much. I think we had Bill. Did Bill get non-recourse? I think he's here in the chat. I'm not sure. I think Bill, did you get I think you said non-recourse at 5% or something like that, 5.5%. But yeah, typically, if you try to do non-recourse, it can take many, many months if you're trying to do it with a bank, and typically they're going to charge you 10 to 12%. Oh yeah, Bill is here. Yeah, so Bill had non-recourse. You bet, Mike. Thanks for the question. Yeah, and if anyone wants to sign up for our free newsletter, Bill got it at 6.5%. Okay. And you think in the 1980s, think about this, right? So Bill was able to get non-recourse financing on a rental property at 6.5%. Non-recourse. It's not tied to him personally. In the early 1980s in the United States, interest rates were upwards of 18%. Regular, traditional mortgages, 18%. And Bill was able to get a non-recourse loan on a rental property in Texas at 6.5%. That's crazy. And then when you look at his internal rate of return, when you consider inflation, you consider appreciation, and you consider cash flow, I mean, he's getting that, he's getting such an incredible rate of return, even with that 6.5%, which is higher than whatever it is, 3% for a traditional. Sevier Francois, sorry, do you find the properties as well as help with the financing? Yeah, we help with all of that because our team is building the properties. So it's new construction built from the ground up from our team, as well as the financing built right in. So everything. So you can book a call with us. Patricia White, I don't invest in Philadelphia. I'm from Philadelphia. Go Phillies. But there are many, there's great areas of Philly to invest. We don't do it though. There's too much regulation, too much red tape to deal with in Philadelphia. The crime is very high in certain areas where you can get a good rate of return. And you're just dealing with very difficult conditions to be able to do what we do at scale. So we do not invest in Philadelphia. Let's see. But Justin Duam, am I saying that right? Duam? Besides Texas, what areas do I consider? Tennessee is nice. I mean, mostly our focus is Texas because, frankly, you just can't beat it. I mean, I don't know. Why go second best when you can go to the top? Really? And I've been in second best. I've been in third best. I've been in fourth best. And I'm telling you, you just can't beat it. You just can't beat it for landlord friendliness. It's the number one most landlord friendly state in the country. So start there. Then second with job growth. Okay. Then availability of contractors who are excellent. Then our property management teams, demographics, job growth, low crime, low vacancy rates. Emmanuel, you're a Flyers and Eagles fan as well. Go Philly. Philly in the house. Roger M. I have family in Indianapolis. Are there deals left there? I know a lot of investors are there already. I used to be pretty bullish on Indianapolis. Crime has just exploded in Indianapolis. I'm sure you read the headlines a few weeks ago where there was that mass shooting. I mean, it's just in the areas where, I mean, there's still pockets, yes, but they have, the city of Indianapolis itself has become less landlord friendly with a series of laws that they've been trying to pass. But the crime in Indianapolis has just been pretty bad, as I'm sure they've told you. Plus the harsh winters in Indianapolis, you know. And the city of Indianapolis itself, they are relentless. They are relentless. Citing for code violations for stuff that you might not even have a code violation for. We've heard nightmare stories from I've heard nightmare stories from investors. Emmanuel, have you considered possibility of water shortage in Lubbock and other Texas locations in the future? I mean, you should consider that anywhere you live, but that part of Texas, there's, you know, it's not like you're sitting in the desert. And they have the infrastructure and they have the full infrastructure there in that part of the state. James Rue. Glad to be able to chat. I recently asked you about investing to raise $25,000 to buy my business property. My question is, by using the profits to buy it, would the capital gains be avoided? My question, by using profits to buy it. Buy my business property. Well, you wouldn't be paying capital gains on the purchase of a property. You'd only be paying capital gains on the sale of the property. So I hope that unless if you had that property and you sold it and you made profit and was in a certain amount of time, yes, then you pay capital gains. But if you're buying it to hold it to build a business on, then no, you wouldn't be paying capital gains on the property. Marlene, did any of your rentals get affected by the COVID rental protection where people stopped paying rent? It was really before COVID, and I've told this horror story in New Jersey where I owned properties. Non-landlord friendly state, so heed that but all of my Texas, everything is fine in Texas and my other properties, but in New Jersey I had a problem with a tenant who even before the pandemic was a professional tenant, meaning like she had no intention of ever paying rent. Like she moved in and immediately just didn't pay rent. And so then we had to go through the eviction process and go through the whole process. And turns out she like faked a bunch of stuff on, I don't know, it was such a pain. But because the state is not landlord friendly, then you had to get lawyers involved. And then COVID hit. It took us a year to get her out of this property. And she didn't pay for a year. And she never intended to pay. Like she moved in January and COVID hit like 3 months later. So that literally, we almost were able to get her evicted as like the moratorium started. So she got this like free ride for a year. And then the sheriff came literally about a month ago and they removed her. She had trashed. It was a brand new renovation that we just completed. And then she basically trashed the property and the sheriff removed her, locked the doors, changed the locks. She breaks in the back window and comes back into the property. That's non-landlord friendly, New Jersey. So now that she's come back into the property, she's now squatting in the property, and now she gets like squatter's rights. That does not fly in Texas, my friend. You don't mess with Texas. But there you go, New Jersey. So don't invest in New Jersey. Hey Clayton, Bill Perdue says, hey Clayton, how soon should I try to pull that equity out of the duplex and purchase another one? Closed in March. Who are you working with on our team, Bill? Maybe talk to them about it. I mean, typically, I know we're in a crazy market. So you probably already have nice appreciation on that property. But, typically you want to, I think, give it at least a year But there's no like, hey, if you bought it in March and you already have like 50,000 in equity because this market is booming, great. I would just call our team, just talk to our team member, and we can see what would make sense. Remember, on a refinance or a home equity, you're going to get 80% loan to value. So if let's say it's appreciated 20 or 30,000, you'd really only get 80% of that to use. So it might not be worth it just yet. You have to play with those numbers a little bit. Yeah, talk with Josh, and he's certainly brilliant with numbers. So Josh can run those numbers and see if it makes sense. Oh, you already have 80K in equity already? Oh, well, okay. Well, yeah, because you had your down payment, of course, and then an appreciation. Yeah, talk to Josh. I think that might make sense. If you're able to get like 80% of that, that might be enough to use as a down payment on a next one. So yeah, I would have Josh run some numbers for you. Juan, does insurance cover things like tenants trashing the property? Yeah, I mean, look, tenant turnovers, we don't have that problem like that in Texas. I mean, this was again, don't use my New Jersey story as to me, that's a very rare cautionary tale. Okay, what we did in New Jersey, if you go back and watch old videos of Natalie and I, we did this as like an experiment. In our own, we basically, it was not even in our own backyard. It was like a 3-hour distance, but we bought a package of properties, and we did it a different way than we would normally do it as an experiment. And it was a disaster. So that experiment in New Jersey was a cautionary tale, and the tenant, it was not in a good area. It was not in a good school district. It was near a military base, so we took a gamble on some of the things. It was not smart of us. But we never have had those properties available for clients. This was just like a personal portfolio thing. So you're not going to have that issue, knock on wood, in like where we do properties in West Texas. You're going to get a bad apple from time to time. You will have a bad tenant. You will have a tenant turnover. You can ask a tenant if you want to get rental insurance, on the property. There are things you can do, and just talk with your property management team about that. Like, what does that look like if they were to trash the property? And that's where, if you have repairs, of course, that you have to pay for, those are all tax write-offs. Those are expenses for your LLCs that owns the rental property. Don Elliott says, I was on the phone with Wealthability. Do you think it's worth the money? Well, Don, I can't speak to that. They've personally saved us hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they are the best tax team I've ever worked with. In fact, one of the team members, Don, we work with, his name is Don, and my father's name was Don. He is so good. Don and Daryl, they're a duo team within Wealthability with Tom and his team. They're fantastic. We have like monthly check-ins on the phone, and they were able to get us, literally we got a call like 2 weeks ago. They were able to get us like a huge, they were able to revise something that an old accountant screwed up years ago and get us like $200,000. That's just like a mistake that we didn't even expect. That's not even part of like their normal tax planning. So Wealthability is my favorite, and we have a program with them on our website. So if you want a great real estate tax team, you have to go through our website, because we have a form that you have to fill out. They don't just take calls from anyone. So you got to go here on morrisinvest.com and click on the Lower Your Taxes button. And then go through that process. They usually can cut your taxes by 10 to 40%, like 3 months or less. Go through that process. Just fill this out, and then they'll book a call. Then you can book a call with them. Go from there. So thank you, Don. Yeah, Don. Again, that's an expense though for your business. Remember, and everyone, there's different pricing tiers. So you might, there's different things that they can structure for different people, but remember that's a tax write-off for your business. So don't forget that. Like you'll and then they're probably going to save you way more than that. But I can't give you advice on that. I can just tell you that we That was our goal. That was our personal goal, was to save up money years ago so that we could actually work with Tom and the Wealthability team. Roger M., I think you're making a smart move. He says, I kind of want to skip the whole first-time home buyer and house jacking thing here in Rhode Island. Just go straight to long-distance investing. Well, we'll help you if you're interested, Roger, because you'd be creating a full-time job for yourself, like if you're going to go through that on your own and try to do it on your own. And I don't quite know. I've never done any deals in Rhode Island. I don't even know if it's landlord-friendly. I'm guessing it's probably not, because it's right in that corridor with very non-friendly landlord states: Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, Vermont. Melody, no, not at all. You don't have to own any investment properties to use Wealthability. Not at all. Mike says, Wealthability might not be a good purchase if you only have one or two properties, but if you have a lot of properties, again, they're not just real estate CPAs. Like, you could have a business, you could have a lot of income and not know how to mitigate your tax, like how to save money on your taxes. They're going to help you regardless of if you're a real estate investor. You bet, Melody. Yeah, Roger M. says Rhode Island is definitely not landlord friendly. Yeah, so I don't know that I'd want to be investing in that area. I mean, see, this is where people think, okay, here I'm in Rhode Island, I should invest in my own backyard because I know it. And then you end up finding out things you just didn't even expect, Nicole, do you want to answer that? Emmanuel, what do I think a duplex or a triplex could cost me for a down payment? Like with our team, I mean, our minimum down payment on most of our properties is going to be about $45,000. So that's what you would need to come to the table to work with us at Morris Invest, about $45,000. And then we have financing built in and available. Like that's probably our entry point. Kara Green says, I purchased my first property with you guys. The tenants left trash in the yard. The city contacted me and I contacted my property manager and they took care of it. No worries for me, thanks to your company. Thank you, Kara. That's awesome. Don says my freedom number is completed. That's awesome. Ronald Smith, any new fourth stimulus check news? Any news for homeowners? Not yet. We're waiting on 2 new infrastructure bills from President Biden, and they're in negotiations right now. One of them, of course, will be infrastructure, and the other is going to be infrastructure and human infrastructure, like schools and education and child tax credits and those types of things. So again, if you meet the income threshold, you should be receiving $3,600 per year per child based on your income level. And that's not contingent on anything, like not if you're on SSI or anything else. And there's no cap on how many children. So, if you have a child under 6, you get $3,600. And then it's above that is $3,000 per child. Mike Owen, what do you think about my home state of Pennsylvania? I'm not opposed to out of state, but I'm still trying to build a small portfolio here in Pennsylvania before I look outside the state. Yeah, Mike, I just think, you need to be very mindful. The state, as you know, Pennsylvania, is totally different from region to region, right? So you just need to be mindful of everything that I talked about at the beginning of this video. And if you want to watch the replay later and go back when I talk about the demographic data, just make sure and just pause the video, go back and rewatch it and just write it down. What I'm looking for, crime data, like all of those things. So if you're looking to build a portfolio in a particular area, make sure that it hits that, all of those things. And don't go cheap on one of them, because that one thing can come back to bite you in the butt, like crime. Like somebody was asking about Indianapolis. Like you could be like, yeah, all this other stuff looks great. Businesses are moving to Indianapolis, the crime, it's high. School districts, not so good. Oh, I'm just going to look past that. Well, what happens, right? People move out of those school districts because they're bad. Then the town turns to crap. Then the crime goes up. right? The city puts in regulations that makes it not landlord friendly. A whole lot of stuff starts happening in Indianapolis that makes it non-favorable for investing, in my opinion. And the property management issues in Indianapolis. I've witnessed some firsthand in that city. So make sure that you protect yourself. We could be talking Altoona, Pennsylvania. We could be talking Pittsburgh. We could be talking Scranton, Wilkes-Barre. And I want to make sure that if I'm in Scranton, Wilkes-Barre, like, are there enough healthcare jobs? What does this job situation look like? Are people traveling to New York City for work? So it's a 2-hour drive to New York City, which a lot of people do actually. Okay, so they're living in Scranton, but they're driving to Manhattan. And so, okay, maybe so you're just going to need to look at all of those demographic points if you need, and really be thorough. Oh, Allentown. Again, jobs, crime, school districts. Is it a hub? Obviously, it's a hub for Philadelphia. Are people from Philly being priced out of that area? So are you able to get into a growing area that's going to, you get in the best school districts, where people that are priced out of Philly are moving because it's just too expensive. So they want to be in a cheaper area with a good school district, but then they commute to Philly. So think about all of those things. But if you don't want to deal with that, if you've got a W-2 job and you're busy and you don't have time for that, book a call with us. We'll take care of you. And we'll give you the best. We will crush Allentown. I will tell you this. Any day of the week. I love Allentown, but no one does what we do. So if you want to do it on your own, I will champion you on in my home state. But if you want a team to take care of it all for you, we will be happy to do that for you. Yeah, Nicole brings up a great point also, Mike, which is making sure you're watching trends for a long period of time too. Not just like the current data, but like, what does the broader economic data look like in this region? 5-year, and also projections coming forward. So like when we were looking at Lubbock and other areas of West Texas before we started even buying land, like we knew certain things were happening and certain businesses were coming. And so when those things started to align, that's when we made our bigger move. And fortunately, we got ahead of it like by 3-4 years. So we were there 3-4 years before what we knew was coming based on the migration patterns and those things. So you want to kind of forecast out too and see these things. That way, if you do all of these things, Mike, this is how you don't get screwed. I mean, I'm telling you, I've been burned in my career, many years ago. And it left me with battle scars. And so now I don't make those mistakes anymore. And I've learned from them. And you don't leave any stone unturned. Steven says, how much are the down payments for your single family homes in Texas? I think, Nicole, right? I think the minimum down payment for one of ours, minimum down payment is going to be about $45,000. If you talk to our team, Stephen, we can walk you through that process and get to that. Don Elliott says, Lubbock, Texas is great. When I was there, I actually talked to the resident who lived there. They have good jobs, tech jobs, closer to the airports and hospitals. That's great. So Don, you bought a property and talked with one of his tenants from our team. That's amazing. That's great. You need to get burned to learn. I love that. Thank you, Stephen. Yeah. Say about 45 down. Oh, well, thank you guys. I think we hit the hour mark here. Thank you for a great discussion today. I hope I helped answer some questions for you there. And Don got to go do some golfing down in Texas. I hope I helped answer some questions today on the show. Thank you guys for joining us. We do our live shows here every Tuesday at noon Eastern time. So I hope this was helpful for you. And we'll be back here again next Tuesday. We'll be watching the markets, seeing what's happening as lumber prices continue to drop, which is great news today. Lumber prices down. Here's lumber prices, by the way. So lumber prices down. Look where they were. So good news on this. Good news coming down here. Good news. Good news. Good news. As that demand continues to increase for housing across the United States. Much love to all of you. Be safe, be kind to one another, and we'll be back here next Tuesday, everyone. Until next time, go out there, take action, become a real estate investor. I believe it's the number one way to build wealth, and it's the number one way to store value. We'll see you next time, everyone.